we don't live in an animal kingdom where people can just do whatever they like and kill whoever they like and get away with it and hide under these, corporate umbrellas that's just protecting them all. And they're probably all laughing at us, and it will happen again. It will happen to other people, maybe not now, maybe not in 10 years, it will happen again though.
Today, the public inquiry into the Grenfell Tower fire publishes its final report. This comes 7 years after 72 people were killed, bereaving dozens and displacing other residents. This is the end of the public inquiry, but as one family member told me, it is the start of the search for justice. The contents of the public inquiry's report are scathing. They name politicians, ministers, the former Community Secretary Eric Pickles, the former Prime Minister David Cameron, who pushed a deregulation agenda that did not prioritise people's safety. They also name civil servants who did not do their jobs properly and flag coroners' recommendations for building safety properly to their bosses because they were so worried about the deregulation agenda. They also cite failures of the manufacturers of the materials that were used at Grenfell. They say some of them sold materials that they knew were unsafe. At almost every level, local government, central government, the construction industry, there was a failure to do the right thing, to make sure buildings were safe. And the report makes it clear those failures led to the deaths of 72 people in 2017, and they are partly why we still have a building safety scandal today. It is very unusual for a police investigation to run alongside a public inquiry, as has been the case with Grenfell. Family members say they are disappointed that this has happened. They feel it has hampered justice. 37-year-old Nazanin Aghlani lost her mother and her aunt on the night of the fire as they tried to escape. She told me the public inquiry has just been a distraction. Nazanin, the public inquiry has now released its final report. How do you feel about that?
To be honest, the details of the report from the inquiry is not of my concern so much. Because the first report that was given at the end of phase 1 wasn't really taken into consideration anyway by the government. Stay put is still in place, PEEPS is still in place. I believe some things are happening, but not much has happened. No real changes in regulation have taken place. So that's primarily, the primary thing. And then the other thing is that the public inquiry was really almost a stitch up for the families because we lost loved ones. I lost 2 close members of my family. And what we're after is criminal charges. And it really should have been the other way around, where criminal prosecutions should have taken place first. There was this, public inquiry has given a platform to all these corrupt fraudsters, these companies, these corporations to kind of play the finger pointing game. And because it's happened so publicly, we're now at a place where when the criminal prosecutions do happen, they're kind of unable to prosecute for what they should have prosecuted them for, which is manslaughter, because it's been so public and they've had the platform to point the finger at each other, and the stories have come out and stories have been changed, and it's stolen justice away from us. The crimes that they'll be charged with now are not going to be as serious as they should have been and they could have been if it was done the right way around. So we've been told by the Met Police that it's going to take them 2 years after the report is released to read the documents alone. We've been told that there's a very large team working on Grenfell. I don't remember the exact numbers, but 2 years seems like a terribly long time to have to wait for them to kind of take it in, considering that they've engaged. I assume they've been taking in the inquiry as it's been going. And, with the technology we have today to go through documents and things, and the vast number of people that they claim are working on Grenfell, it just seems completely just too long for what it is, and it's just dragging this longer than it should. Once again, it's been 7 years for the public inquiry, now 2 years for them to just read the documents of the inquiry. It's just too long.
You lost your mother and your aunt in the Grenfell Tower fire.
Yeah.
What would a criminal prosecution, just one, let alone several, which may well come, mean to you?
It will never bring them back. So in no way will it make it okay, or will it give us complete closure, because the anger will always be there. Unless every kind of company that was involved, in particular in Mum's case, you know, corporations such as RBKC, who housed her there in the first place, put her in a death trap, unless everybody involved that had a thing, from the cladding to the, unless they're all kind of prosecuted with manslaughter, there will never be closure, because somebody will always have got away with it. But it's a start. It's some kind of, you know, some kind of just a moment to just take a deep breath, I guess, and just know that, you know, the law is with you, and we don't live in an animal kingdom where people can just do whatever they like and kill whoever they like and get away with it and hide under these, you know, corporate umbrellas that's just protecting them all. And they're probably all laughing at us, and it will happen again. You know, it will happen to other people, maybe not now, maybe not in 10 years, it will happen again though.
You gave evidence to the inquiry about problems with your mum's flat. Tell me, what did you see?
Well, initially, the fact that it was on the 18th floor, she should have never been housed above the 4th floor. And that was documented in RBKC's document years before, about 10, 12 years before. And that's particularly for fire safety reasons. So that was a major problem with it, let alone the, you know, the interiors, kind of hazards of pipes and things. The kind of duty of care very easily falls through the nets, and it goes in a play where it suits them. For example, giving an 18th floor property to somebody who needs a step-free property just because nobody else wants it.
If you had to describe the last 7 years to somebody who doesn't know what it's like to have gone through what you've gone through, what would you say?
Personally, I would say it feels like I've lived a parallel life. It's kind of like you have to do the things with your kids, with your family, you know, the holidays, whatever. You have to live life. You know, I used to wake up thinking, I just don't want to wake up. Like in the early days, I just don't want to wake up. But you have children and you have a family, and you have to wake up. So then you feel this burden to kind of be involved in the processes, and the public inquiry in particular has taken a lot of our energy, a lot of our time. The engagement with it, the listening to the stories, listening to other people talk about, you know, deaths, watching Netflix documentaries such as, you know, Harry and Meghan, and then all of a sudden Grenfell is up there. When you're sitting there on your sofa on a Friday night watching a documentary, having a takeaway, you know, and then you end up in a broken down state. So it's been very difficult, and they cross all the time, and it's been very difficult to separate it, and it's been very difficult to kind of give yourself to both. And then you see bigger powers taking control of that section anyway, through the inquiry. You know, we haven't been allowed to fight for real justice because we've been limited by, you know, we were limited by Theresa May the next day. It's not an inquiry we chose to have.
Do you think they called the public inquiry too soon?
Of course. It should have never been a public inquiry, you know. It should have been a criminal case investigated by the police. Why was it ever a public thing? It's just been this kind of theatre. And then, you know, you get people mocking this theatre, you know, making up models of the towers, setting it on fire, and then you get the other one, people are very sympathetic, but what's coming out of it? Absolutely nothing. And it's just been a little financial ecosystem for this millions of pounds. I believe 180 million has been spent on the lawyers and the public inquiry, to have this show, which at the end is going to give out a report which might end up in some recommendation, which will be an option for a company to take on or not. You know, the ethics, I think, was completely taken out of the restoration of Grenfell. in terms of the renovations and everything. And I think the aftermath has seen the same. There's no ethical way in which they've proceeded with everything. It's completely stolen our rights away from us.
The public inquiry was set up by the previous Conservative government under Theresa May. We now have a new government under Sir Keir Starmer, a new Labour government.
Yeah.
If you could say something to them about what needs to happen next, what would it be?
I think I would say we've paid a heavy price. Around every one person that's died in that fire, been 72 people, there's a lot of people suffering. And when tragedies like this happen, it's not just the numbers that are deceased in it, it's the people around them that are having to kind of deal with it. And I think we've really been let down by the last government in the way things were deregulated, in the way everything was set up to turn to be Grenfell, and in the aftermath where we were forced to have a public inquiry. We were never really taken seriously as the immediate families. And I would say we hope to see a change, we hope to be heard, and we hope that when something as expensive as a public inquiry has taken place, we hope to see that our loved ones haven't died in vain. Things like PEEPs. I always say, like, why is it taking so long? Like, why has it been rejected? We have all these enormous things, and then we have kind of junior political figures in government that just vote things out anyway.
The first phase of the inquiry called for PEEPs, so personal evacuation plans for people who have accessibility requirements or disabilities, and that was rejected by the previous government. As the daughter of somebody who would have benefited from a personal evacuation plan, that must have been very difficult to watch.
Yeah, it was very difficult. It was a slap in the face, You kind of hope that with such a high price paid, something will change to acknowledge that, okay, they didn't die in vain, but it's kind of like, you don't matter, your people don't matter, people like you don't matter, people like her don't matter, and it will continue to not matter. And that's ultimately what it is.